She waited a lifetime to become queen, and finally Camilla wore the crown. But at the coronation, a single glance from Kate Middleton, gentle, silent, yet defiant, told Camilla one thing: the real battle was only just beginning. The press exalts Kate, the public adores Kate, and Charles, her husband, whom Camilla thought would always stand by her, chooses to defend Kate. Camilla strikes back with rumors, media manipulation, and the pride of a woman who's endured a lifetime of scrutiny. But can a crown truly make someone a queen? The Grand Hall of Buckingham Palace shimmered with opulence, its vast ceiling adorned with intricate gold leaf patterns that caught the glow of crystal chandeliers. Each gem sparkled like a star, casting radiant beams over the aristocracy in their resplendent gowns and tailored suits, their murmurs blending into a symphony of anticipation. Today was the coronation, the day Camilla Parker Bowles, after decades of patience and perseverance, officially became queen, standing beside King Charles III. The air buzzed with formality, yet an unspoken tension lingered like a storm brewing beneath a calm sky, as if the room held its breath, waiting for an unseen spark to ignite. In the preparation room, Camilla stood before a grand gilded mirror, her hands trembling slightly as she lifted the pearl and diamond-encrusted crown. Its intricate design gleamed under the soft light, a testament to centuries of tradition. She placed it on her meticulously styled hair, feeling its weight not just physical, but symbolic of power, responsibility, and a lifetime of controversy. Her reflection revealed a woman in her 60s, faint lines etched at the corners of her eyes, yet her gaze remained sharp, resolute, burning with determination. Today she whispered, her voice barely audible, "I'll make them forget Diana." The words were both a vow and a challenge, a defiance of the past that had haunted her for so long. Outside, trumpets blared their triumphant notes, echoing through the palace, signaling the ceremony's start. Camilla emerged, her pearl-colored silk gown clinging elegantly to her frame, its long train trailing like a silver river across the polished marble floor. Charles, in his regal crimson and gold regalia, awaited her at the head of the aisle. His smile was warm but strained, a familiar expression after decades of shared triumphs and trials. She took his hand, her fingers steady despite the racing of her heart, and stepped deliberately, each footfall resonating like a drumbeat in the hallowed hall. The gathered nobles rose, their applause polite but restrained, a formality rather than a celebration. Camilla barely noticed their measured claps. Her eyes scanned the room like a general surveying a battlefield, seeking the recognition and respect she believed she had earned through years of endurance. She smiled, a triumphant, sharp smile, as if declaring to the world, "I've won. I am the rightful queen." In that moment, every hardship, every barbed criticism, every year branded as the other woman felt justified. Diana, the shadow that had loomed over her life, was now just a distant memory, or so she desperately wanted to believe. But then amidst the rhythmic applause, Camilla's gaze locked onto another. Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, stood in the front row, radiant in a deep sapphire gown that accentuated her poised elegance, her hands clasped lightly in front of her. Kate's brown eyes were calm, like a still lake reflecting moonlight, yet they carried an enigmatic strength Camilla couldn't decipher. It wasn't hostility, nor the perfunctory congratulations of the crowd. It was a look of quiet observation, as if Kate could read every thought in Camilla's mind without uttering a word. Camilla faltered, her breath catching for a fleeting moment. Her smile held, but her chest tightened, a sudden pang of unease piercing her triumph. Kate tilted her head slightly, a courteous gesture, yet Camilla felt a chill run down her spine, as if an unseen challenge had been issued. Who is she to look at me like that? Camilla wondered, but the answer stirred a deep unease. Kate wasn't merely the royal daughter-in-law or William's wife, the heir to the throne. She embodied a new era, exuding the grace and compassion the public craved, qualities Camilla, despite her tireless efforts, had never fully mastered. The ceremony pressed on with ancient oaths and solemn hymns filling the air, but Camilla's mind drifted. She stood beside Charles, her hand in his, yet her eyes kept flickering toward Kate, who seemed to radiate an effortless allure. This young woman, with her gentle demeanor and warm smile, was becoming an invisible threat, a rival Camilla hadn't anticipated. Her grip on Charles's hand tightened, her engagement ring digging into her skin, a sharp reminder of her hard-won place. The crown on her head, though dazzling, suddenly felt heavier, its weight pressing against her resolve. As the ceremony concluded and the crowd began to disperse, Camilla lingered, her gaze following Kate's retreating figure. As she left the hall with William, their steps synchronized and graceful. A chilling thought sliced through her mind, sharp as a blade. She won't let me rest easy. And Camilla, newly crowned queen, knew with a sinking certainty that the real war had only just begun. In the months following the coronation, Camilla threw herself into her role as queen with fierce determination, her every action a testament to her resolve. She appeared alongside Charles at events ranging from grand diplomatic receptions at St. James's Palace to meticulously planned overseas tours, each moment choreographed to showcase her authority. Her wardrobe was a study in elegance, bespoke gowns by top designers tailored with precise cuts and vibrant hues that commanded attention. She smiled for the cameras, delivered speeches on charitable causes, and hosted lavish dinners at Clarence House, where crystal glasses clinked and candlelight danced. Every gesture, every word was calculated, a silent proclamation that she was worthy of the crown she now wore. Yet despite her relentless efforts, the spotlight Camilla craved remained elusive, slipping through her fingers like sand. The British press, ever merciless and hungry for sensational stories, seemed fixated on one figure, Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, whose every appearance captivated the nation. One crisp autumn morning, Camilla sat in her private drawing room at Clarence House, the pale sunlight filtering through tall windows, casting intricate patterns on a Persian rug. On the table before her lay a stack of freshly printed newspapers, their ink sharp and biting. The Times dominated the pile, its bold headlines screaming, "Catherine, Queen of the People's Hearts." Below it, a vivid photograph captured Kate at a London children's hospital, dressed in a simple emerald dress that hugged her slender frame. She knelt to embrace a young girl with a rare illness, her smile warm as sunlight, radiating a tenderness that seemed to transcend the page. The child, her eyes wide and adoring, wore a headscarf to cover hair lost to chemotherapy, her small hand clutching Kate's as if she were a guardian angel. Camilla's fingers trembled as she flipped to The Guardian. Another article lauded Kate's sincerity and her uncanny ability to connect with the public, her every gesture imbued with authenticity. "Catherine Middleton is more than a princess. She is the new light of the monarchy, carrying forward Diana's spirit," it declared. Camilla's throat tightened, a bitter taste rising. Diana. The name, though unspoken for nearly 3 decades, lingered like a ghost, haunting every step of her journey. She gripped the paper, her nails digging into her palms until they stung, leaving faint crescent marks. No one called her the queen of the people's hearts. No article showered her with such fervent praise. Memories flooded back, years of public scorn, branded as the homewrecker endlessly measured against Diana's untouchable legacy. She had believed the crown would erase that past, granting her the respect she had fought so hard to earn. But now, at the zenith of her journey, the light shone on another, a younger, more beautiful woman who seemed to win adoration without effort, her grace a natural gift Camilla could never replicate. A wave of helplessness surged, laced with an envy she refused to name. Kate wasn't just stealing the spotlight, she was building a legacy quietly, but with unshakable strength, her every action resonating with a public hungry for authenticity. And Camilla, though crowned queen, felt like a shadow, her presence dim and unnoticed beside Kate's radiant glow. She closed her eyes, drawing a deep, steadying breath, her hands smoothing the crumpled newspaper. "No," she told herself, her resolve hardening like steel. "I won't let her win." Camilla knew this battle wasn't merely about titles or crowns, it was about the heart of the public, a prize more valuable than any jewel. And she was determined to reclaim it, whatever the cost. In her private study at Clarence House, Camilla sat at a polished mahogany desk, the soft glow of a brass desk lamp illuminating the faint lines at her eyes and the steely resolve in her gaze. Before her lay a carefully curated list of names, journalists, editors, and PR contacts who had proven their loyalty over the years. These were the architects of public perception, masters at turning whispers into tempests across the British press. Camilla tapped her fingers rhythmically on the desk, a subtle smile curling her lips, sharp and calculated. "If the public craves a story, I'll give them one they won't forget." She moved with the precision of a chess master, her actions veiled to avoid any trace back to her. A discreet phone call to a trusted reporter, a carefully worded hint dropped during an afternoon tea with a prominent editor at a Mayfair tea room. Soon whispers began to ripple through tabloids and social media, each seeded with just enough intrigue to take root. Kate Middleton was too ambitious, quietly crafting an image to eclipse the Queen. An article in The Sun questioned whether Kate was neglecting her children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, in her pursuit of fame, citing anonymous palace insiders. Another in the Daily Mail hinted that Kate deliberately upstaged Camilla at public events, its headline blaring, "The Silent War in the Palace, Princess. Catherine versus the Queen Camilla," read these stories in the quiet of her study, a cold satisfaction settling over her, like a winter frost. She knew the British public thrived on drama, and these rumors, though thinly veiled and not entirely grounded, would plant seeds of doubt about Kate's flawless image. Let them see she's not perfect. She thought, her fingers tracing the edge of a newspaper. But Camilla's strategy didn't end with whispers. She escalated her campaign with a bold move. A charity event honoring children in London was scheduled, with Kate set to deliver the keynote address, her presence guaranteed to draw adoring crowds and press. Camilla, leveraging her authority as queen, inserted herself into the event at the last minute, overriding protocol with a quiet word to the organizers. She chose a vivid red silk gown, its bold hue commanding attention, paired with a wide-brimmed hat adorned with sweeping feathers, a statement designed to dominate every photograph. As she entered the venue, her smile was radiant, her handshake firm as she greeted officials and engaged the crowd, her speech deliberately extended to seize the press's focus, each word crafted to assert her presence. The audience clapped politely as Camilla concluded, their applause echoing in the grand hall. But she noticed a subtle shift. Their attention wasn't truly hers. Reporters stationed near the stage turned their lenses toward Kate, who stood in the wings, dressed in an elegant white gown that seemed to glow under the soft lights. She was chatting with a group of children from the charity, her posture relaxed as she knelt to listen to a young boy's story, her smile gentle yet luminous, as if Camilla's presence were an afterthought. When Kate took the podium, the room fell into a hushed reverence. Stage lights caught the glossy sheen of her brown hair, and in that moment Camilla felt the world contract with Kate at its center. Her voice was clear, warm, and resonant with quiet power. No one becomes a public figure through a title alone. It's about standing among the people and never backing down. Today we honor the brave hearts of these children who remind us that love and hope are stronger than any challenge. The words landed like a cold gust sweeping through the room. The crowd erupted in applause, many rising to their feet, their eyes glistening with emotion. Reporters scribbled furiously, cameras flashing like a storm. Camilla, standing in a shadowed corner, felt her chest constrict, her breath shallow. Kate's speech wasn't just an address. It was a declaration, an invisible strike aimed directly at her. She knows, Camilla thought, her hands clenching into fists, nails biting into her palms. She knows what I'm doing, and she's not afraid. As the event ended, Kate left the stage, her smile unwavering as she mingled with the crowd, her eyes briefly meeting Camilla's for a fleeting moment. It wasn't defiance, but a quiet confidence, as if saying, "You can try, but I won't be easily defeated." Camilla stood in her blazing red gown, the feathers of her hat trembling slightly, yet she felt engulfed in a darkness that no spotlight could pierce. The Buckingham Palace dinner was a spectacle of grandeur, its opulent ballroom aglow with the shimmer of crystal chandeliers, their light reflecting off polished silver cutlery and ruby-red wine glasses. Soft violin music from a corner orchestra wove through the air, mingling with the polite chatter of guest diplomats, aristocrats, and titans of British society, their conversations a delicate dance of power and pretense. The atmosphere was formal, yet beneath it ran undercurrents of rivalry and calculation, as was customary in the gilded world of royal gatherings. Camilla, in a sequined black gown that caught the light with every step, moved through the crowd with the practiced poise of a queen. She shook hands with dignitaries, exchanged pleasantries with lords and ladies, and smiled a smile honed over decades to conceal her true emotions, polished to perfection like the jewels in her crown. But her eyes, sharp and vigilant, never strayed far from Kate Middleton, who stood across the room captivating a group of ambassadors. Kate wore a pale blue silk gown, its simplicity a stark contrast to its elegance, her brown hair cascading softly. her smile a beacon that seemed to light up the entire corner of the ballroom. Camilla's grip tightened on her wineglass, her painted nails pressing into her palm, leaving faint marks. After her failure at the charity event, where Kate's speech had stolen every ounce of glory, Camilla's vigilance had sharpened to a razor's edge. The rumors she'd seeded in the press, carefully crafted to tarnish Kate's image, had backfired, only amplifying the public's adoration for her, as if they saw through the gossip to her unyielding sincerity. Camilla knew that to secure her position, she needed to confront Kate directly, not through shadowy schemes, but with a challenge that left no room for ambiguity. The opportunity arose when Kate stepped away from the ambassadors to take a glass of water from the banquet table, her movements graceful and unhurried. Camilla glided through the crowd, her black gown whispering across the marble floor, the sequins catching the chandelier light like a constellation. She stopped before Kate, her cool gaze sweeping over her, assessing every detail, the poised tilt of her head, the calm confidence in her posture. "A lovely evening, isn't it?" Catherine Camilla said, her voice sweet but edged with a sharpness like a blade hidden in a velvet sheath. She tilted her head, her smile tight, not reaching the cold glint in her eyes. "You seem quite beloved tonight." Kate turned her deep brown eyes, meeting Camilla's with unflinching clarity. She smiled, gentle but not weak, her expression like a still lake reflecting moonlight, serene yet unyielding. "Thank you, Your Majesty," she replied, her voice soft but steady, carrying a quiet authority. "I'm just trying to do my best." Her words were simple, yet Camilla sensed a deeper layer, a subtle defiance. Kate was responding, but not submitting. In a brief pause, as the violin softened and nearby chatter hushed, Kate stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper meant only for Camilla. "I don't want to replace anyone," she said, her tone almost soothing, but her eyes sharp as a velvet-clad blade. "But if you want to play by palace rules, I'm ready." Camilla froze, her wineglass trembling slightly, the red liquid rippling like blood. Kate's words weren't an overt threat, but they carried a weight greater than any challenge, a warning wrapped in courtesy and delivered with the confidence of someone who knew her own power. Camilla met Kate's gaze, and for the first time she saw something she hadn't before. Kate was no longer the naive young woman who entered the royal family over a decade ago, wide-eyed and uncertain. She was a mother, a wife, and most crucially, the mother of the future King George. She wielded a power no title could confer, a strength rooted in authenticity and resolve. Camilla maintained her smile, though it felt like a mask, her lips taut. Inside, a storm of anger and unease churned, threatening to break through her composure. "You have a way with words, Catherine," she replied, her voice calm, as if untouched by the exchange. "We'll have plenty more chances to talk." She tilted her head, a regal gesture, and turned away, her heels clicking sharply on the marble each step, a declaration of her refusal to yield. Late at night in Buckingham Palace, the glow of a brass desk lamp illuminated King Charles III's study, casting long, wavering shadows across ancient oak bookshelves lined with leather-bound tomes. The steady tick of a grandfather clock echoed through the room, its rhythm like the heartbeat of a monarchy stepping into a new era. Charles sat at his desk, his tired eyes scanning a stack of documents detailing an upcoming international tour. His pen pausing as he rubbed his temples, the weight of his role evident in his furrowed brow. The study door swung open with a soft creak, and Camilla entered, her steps swift and purposeful, a stark contrast to her usual measured grace. In her hand was a stack of newspapers, their thin pages heavy with bold accusatory headlines. At the top was a vivid photograph of Kate Middleton, radiant at a recent charity event, her smile warm and genuine, with the caption, "Catherine, the future of the monarchy." Camilla slammed the papers onto the desk, the force sending a quill pen skittering across the polished wood. "Charles," she began, her voice trembling with barely restrained fury. "She's stealing all the light. I'm the queen, but look at this. The press only talks about her. They call her the future, as if I'm just a temporary shadow." She pointed at the papers, her red-painted nails glinting under the lamplight, her hands shaking with the intensity of her emotion. "You need to tell her to know her place." Charles looked up, his pale blue eyes meeting hers first with surprise, then a rare steely coldness that caught her off guard. He set his pen down, deliberately closing the documents with a slow, measured motion, as if buying time to temper his response. Camilla, he said, his voice low and clear, cutting through the charged air. Kate hasn't done anything wrong. She's doing what a royal should do, and she's doing it well. His words struck like a blade, sharp and unexpected, slicing through the fragile armor of her composure. Camilla froze, her chest tightening as if an invisible hand gripped her heart. She stepped closer, her hands pressing against the desk, her eyes blazing with a fire born of years of sacrifice. "And what about me?" She snapped, her anger spilling over, no longer contained. "All these years by your side, enduring every insult, every scornful look, every headline branding me a villain, just to be overshadowed by a new bride. A young woman the press hails as Diana reborn." Diana's name, though spoken in a moment of rage, froze the room like a winter gust. Charles's brow furrowed, his eyes darkening, as if the mention of his first wife reopened a wound that had never fully healed. He stood, his tall frame weary yet resolute, and looked directly into Camilla's eyes, his gaze unyielding. "You are the queen," he said, his voice harder than she had ever heard. "But being queen doesn't mean everyone else must dim for you to shine. Kate isn't competing with you. She's just doing her duty." Camilla felt the ground crumble beneath her, a sense of betrayal washing over her like a cold tide. Charles's words weren't just a refusal, they were a repudiation of everything she had endured to stand by his side. She had spent her life beside him, from the days of public rejection to her crowning as queen, weathering storms of criticism and scorn. She had believed Charles, above all, would always protect her, as he'd promised in their most vulnerable moments, whispered in the quiet of nights long past. But now he stood defending Kate, the woman Camilla saw as her greatest threat, a rival who threatened to eclipse her legacy. "You're choosing her," Camilla said, her voice dropping to a near whisper, each word sharp as a dagger laced with pain and accusation. "After everything I've done, you choose her over me." She turned, not waiting for a reply, her heels clicking loudly on the wooden floor as she strode out of the study, the door slamming shut behind her with a hollow, echoing thud that reverberated through the silent palace. The long corridor of Buckingham Palace stretched into darkness, lit only by the faint golden glow of brass wall sconces, their light casting intricate shadows that danced across the polished marble floor. Camilla's heels echoed with a steady, relentless rhythm, each step like a hammer, striking the palace's oppressive silence. She walked quickly, her head held high, her posture rigid with defiance, but her hands clenched so tightly that her knuckles whitened, betraying the storm within. The conversation with Charles replayed in her mind, his words cutting deeper. With each recollection, Kate hasn't done anything wrong. She's doing what a royal should do, and she's doing it well. Those words weren't just a defense of Kate, they were a dismissal of Camilla's sacrifices, a betrayal of the loyalty she had given him through decades of adversity. She paused before a towering portrait of King George's, sitting as Charles's grandfather, his stern gaze seeming to pierce through her as if judging her turmoil. A surge of anger flared not just at Charles but at herself for believing she could ever escape the shadows of her past. She had fought her entire life for this position, enduring the public's scorn, the tabloids' cruel labels of the other woman, the lonely nights when the world turned its back on her. Charles, her supposed rock, had once promised, in a moment of vulnerability, "I'll protect you no matter what." Those words had sustained her through the darkest times, a lifeline in a sea of rejection. Yet now he protected Kate, a woman Camilla had once dismissed as a dutiful daughter-in-law, pliable and unthreatening, but who now loomed as a formidable rival. Camilla resumed walking the corridor, stretching endlessly before her, its cold grandeur a stark contrast to the heat of her emotions. Memories of her years with Charles flooded back, clandestine meetings in quiet country estates, handwritten letters exchanged under the cover of night, moments waiting in the shadows for a man whose heart was divided. She had accepted being Diana's shadow, endured the hatred of a nation, all for the day she would stand beside him in the light, crowned and vindicated. But now as queen, that light belonged to Kate, her effortless grace illuminating the monarchy in ways Camilla could never achieve. She felt betrayed not just by Charles but by the very institution she had sacrificed everything to uphold, a monarchy that now seemed to favor a new face over her hard-won crown. Paris glowed under a radiant autumn evening, its streets alive with the hum of anticipation. The Grand Palais, hosting a prestigious international summit on climate change, was a vision of elegance adorned with fluttering British and French flags that danced in the crisp breeze. World leaders, environmental activists, and global media converged, their attention drawn to King Charles III, who arrived in a dark ceremonial suit, his demeanor a blend of regal authority and approachable warmth, a reflection of his lifelong passion for the environment. Beside him was Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, resplendent in a forest green silk gown that flowed with understated elegance. Her smile radiant under the relentless flash of cameras, her presence a beacon of grace. The pair moved together with seamless harmony, engaging heads of state and scientists in thoughtful dialogue, their partnership a striking image of unity and vitality. Charles led discussions with his deep knowledge of environmental issues, his voice steady and commanding, while Kate complimented him with insightful questions and moments of genuine human connection. When she knelt to speak with a young activist, listening with unwavering sincerity to the girl's story of resilience, the crowd around her seemed to hold its breath, captivated by her warmth. From The Guardian to Le Figaro, the press was quick to christen them the monarchy's future duo. The phrase splashed across headlines within hours, their image on the global stage, symbolizing the monarchy's continuity and renewal, a bridge between tradition and a modern era. Meanwhile, at Clarence House in London, Camilla sat alone in her private drawing room, the flickering light of the television casting stark shadows across her face. The screen replayed Charles and Kate in Paris, their figures framed against the grandeur of the Grand Palais, with a ticker scrolling below King Charles and Princess Catherine, the future of the British monarchy. Not a single mention of her name. No invitation to join them at this pivotal event. Camilla, Queen of the United Kingdom, felt erased from the narrative she had spent her life crafting, her presence reduced to a footnote in a story now dominated by another. She clutched the remote, her finger hovering over the power button, but her eyes remained fixed on Kate's image, smiling, conversing effortlessly, winning hearts without seeming to try. A sharp pain pierced Camilla's chest, not merely jealousy, but a bitter truth. She could no longer deny Kate had achieved what Camilla never could. She wasn't just loved, she was respected not only by the public, but by Charles himself, who stood beside her on the world stage, their partnership a silent endorsement of her place as the monarchy's future. Camilla rose, her movements slow and deliberate, and approached her dressing table where her crown rested in its red velvet box, its diamonds catching the lamplight in a cold, distant shimmer. Her fingers brushed the jewels, tracing their intricate facets, but the pride she had felt at her coronation was gone, replaced by a hollow emptiness. "I wear it, but does it truly belong to me?" She wondered, her inner voice a haunting whisper that echoed in the silence. She recalled the early days as queen, when she had believed the public would finally embrace her, that they would forget Diana and see her as worthy of the crown. But now she saw the truth. The public hadn't just remembered Diana, they had found her spirit's heir in Kate, a woman whose authenticity and compassion resonated in ways Camilla's calculated efforts never could. And Charles, the man she had sacrificed everything for, seemed to choose Kate, not with explicit words, but through his actions, allowing her to shine beside him, illuminating the monarchy's path forward. Camilla sank into an armchair, her gaze vacant as she stared out the window at the darkened London skyline, where only faint streetlights flickered in the distance. She thought of Kate, who needed no schemes, no grand speeches, no carefully orchestrated appearances to capture the public's heart. Kate was simply herself, authentic, resilient, unshakable in her quiet strength. And that more than any crown or title made Camilla feel she had lost the battle she had fought her entire life. The crown remained on her head, its jewels gleaming coldly, but its light had left her forever. In the stillness of the room, Camilla faced a painful truth. A queen's true power lies not in a title, but in the ability to inspire. And Kate, without ever needing a crown, had become the true queen in the hearts of the people. Do you think Camilla is suited for the role in the crown? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more royal stories.